Connecticut.
Good evening and welcome again to Posse Presents. I don't know why I always groove on that music. I love that song. I'll never get tired of saying it. I'll say it forever. It's one of those songs I grew up on, and they stick with you. And crazily enough, I'm sure I told this story, but if you've never heard it before, I was so stressed out about my intro and what I was going to do and how I was going to have my music, and the different possibilities were like rolling around in my head. And being a perfectionist, I freaked out and was stressing it, because that's what I do best, is stress. And went to work out one day and put in my old school CD, and sure enough, that song came on, and I was like, ah! It was like the perfect, just perfect, and I narrowed it down to that one little spot. And instead of I had a couple of different things that I wanted to do with the opening, and I'm kind of looking at Speedo here. He remembers me talking about I was going to do the stills and the live action, and I'm really glad I went the simple direction that I went in, because hey, I like it. And I always say, I think I said this a couple weeks ago, when Mom is happy, everybody's happy. Mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. But anyway, I want to start this evening out with a couple of birthday shout outs, because why not. Someone very near and dear to my heart, my cousin Tara, who is a year older than me, so safe to say that it's a big one for her, and I know I don't have that one wrong. Better you than me. Happy birthday. She was closest in proximity of my cousins and closest of the ones that were close by in age. So, she lived next door to my grandmother as I grew up, and due to age and circumstance, I hung out a lot at my grandmother's house. So we kind of got thrown together like kids do sometimes, quite often. And it was good because we had a lot of fun and we got along, and generally we're those two kids that played well together. And so she's always been very, very close in my heart, even though time and distance sometimes get in the way. She's out in California now. She's a film editor, and she's worked with some really big names, and I'm really proud of her, because the path that she chose has worked out well for her, and she's been successful. And somewhere in my house there's a picture of her with Mr. James Bond, Sean Connery, and she did the John Mellencamp movie just before I decided that I really did like John Mellencamp as much as I do. So I guess it's almost better that she did that before I did, because she probably would have, not liked me very much, because I would have been a stalker cross country. But anyway, neither here nor there. From the East Coast to the West Coast, and from my heart to yours, Tara, happy birthday. I hope that you really enjoyed your day, and that you have a wonderful entire weekend celebrating the wonderful person that is you. And the other birthday, look behind me, folks, and the little corgi in the corner, Andy, who's been missing since December 31st, pretty much New Year's Eve. Andy is 12 today, and there was a very heartfelt post from his mom on the Bring Andy Home page this morning, celebrating, marking his birthday wherever he is. I mean, they do have him narrowed down. He's gone from South Norwalk to, parts around and beyond, and they're still in very hot pursuit of Andy. If you check out the page, you can see on Facebook all the progress. They've tracked him through God knows what and beyond, and they're still trying to get him home. I guess according to the post today, there haven't been the sightings with the frequency that they would like, and they think that he's probably kind of looped around and moved a little bit out of the area that they've called his hot zone for quite a while now. But I guess the research proves that these dogs tend to kind of like spiral around, and it almost seems like he's heading back towards where he was actually lost. And the best outcome is just to bring that poor boy home. My promise back in the beginning of all this was to keep both Andy's and Ozzy's posters up until they are brought home, and I will absolutely honor that. And looking at Ozzy's page today, just to see if there was anything. There really is anything posted on his page, which is sad. And I wonder what's going on. Are they still looking for him? Are there still reported sightings? Have they given up? I'd love to know. If anybody knows, get in touch with me. I posted on the page, is there any news? And hopefully there'll be something. I've done that once or twice to no answer. So I hope that that's not been abandoned, because that would be just awful for the dog, and kind of hurtful not to know what's going on, because you kind of get hooked on knowing what the outcome is, whether it's something or nothing. In the same vein of lost dogs, look what happened with Lacey. Lacey was brought home on Mother's Day to her mom, which was a beautiful thing. Poor Timmy, with who I mentioned, I mentioned him time and time again. Poor Timmy's still out there in Waterbury, and just in the last week or so, there's been sightings of a skinny German Shepherd-y looking dog up by Target, and that's kind of like the outskirts of his area. And driving through that part of town this week a few times, I was much more aware of the signs, because they've kind of spread out into some of the different areas for Timmy. But you can't ever lose faith that you can find a dog once it's lost. Shade is still out there in Waterbury, and there were some reports of somebody seeing somebody walking a dog that looked like Shade not far from her house, which that'd be pretty awful. You find somebody's dog and they're doing everything they can to look for it, and you just have it, and surely you must see signs and posters and be somewhat aware. You can't just people find a dog and keep it because you think you can. There's laws about that, and at the very least you should put your own ad in the paper if you're not going to turn it into your local animal control. So anyway, I'm off on a tangent because I do that very well. Bottom line, happy birthday to Andy. I would have thought and hoped that he'd be spending his birthday home, in his mama's arms instead of still on the lam. But I know that his family will absolutely celebrate both his return and his birthday, however belatedly it will be. Keep the faith. They've got like this wonderful machine working to try to get Andy, and such wonderful supporters. And I've met a few people on Facebook and even gotten to meet them in person through these lost dog searches, and it restores your faith, because as scummy as people can be, there really are some good ones out there, and I'm always grateful to be able to meet the ones who really and truly are good of heart and pure of heart. And that's the end of that story. I'm kind of just like rambling because I'm very very reflective these days, and have a lot going on, so it just kind of shifts your sensibilities, it shifts your sensitivities, and it's just the way it is. So you kind of do reflect a little differently on things as they happen in your life. There is a huge emergency in Connecticut's pounds. There is definitely, they're full, they're close to full. The dogs are in serious, imminent danger of being put to death just for being homeless. It's around the state. It's not just in Waterbury. It's pretty much, if there is a municipal facility nearby, you can pretty much guarantee that they are full or in danger of being full very soon. There was an adoption event today in Waterbury, and it was actually fairly successful. They needed to get 10 dogs out, and they extended adoption hours on Thursday. They extended adoption hours on Friday. They actually had fixed adoption hours today, because usually on a Saturday while they're open, there's only one person on, and you can go down there, but if that animal control officer has a call, well, then there's nobody there, and you either have to wait or come back, and it's very hit or miss on the weekends. So they had a fixed staff there on a volunteer basis, which is actually a really huge step forward. And they got 7 of the 10 dogs that they were looking to homes, and that's fabulous. Still gives the opportunity to get more out. There's going to be hours by appointment tomorrow. Again, same situation. You really kind of have to work around whether or not the animal control officer on duty gets a call. If you go down there, you're going to have to wait if they're not there, or you're going to have to, deal with it if they're busy or get a call. But, there's still the opportunity between tomorrow, hopefully, and maybe potentially early Monday, because Monday was actually the deadline where, things weren't looking too good on Thursday and Friday as far as the adoptions. They picked up today. Monday was the deadline, so, it looks like they maybe could have pushed it off just a little bit. But by all means, if you're able to take a dog in, go on down, take a chance, go down tomorrow and go down early Monday. I'm always a supporter of, so what if they're not open? If you're down there, you're there. So, they can either let you in or not. And just be prepared to wait and be patient, because I'm pushy like that. But, that's just me, and Speedo's laughing. But, that's the story in Waterbury. And, they really, like I said, any pound around you right now is going to be in danger. But keep in mind that Waterbury houses 40 dogs, and that's one of the larger facilities. And to be full and need to get 10 out, that still leaves them with 30. And a lot of those dogs aren't even for adoption because they're, aggressive, on hold, cruelty cases. Who knows what they have down there that take up these kennels. But leave themselves 10 kennels doesn't leave themselves a lot, because honestly they can get 5 or 6 dogs in a day easily. So to get 10 empty can be full again in a couple of days. So it's been a while since I explained all that, whether or not anybody pays attention or not. But Waterbury definitely needs to keep the flow of adoptions to keep these dogs alive, and it's up to you. You guys can help. There are some dogs down there with the pull fees that are taken care of. There's been a lot of people who can't adopt, but have stepped up in some ways to try to encourage other people to. And face it, not everybody is on the same footing, and can doesn't mean that maybe you don't have it, but you don't have it today, and today's when you need it to get the dog out of there. So everybody works together to try to help, and that's their way of doing it. I will mention there was the dog with the severe case of mange that everybody got together and helped to stay at the vet for the week to be treated instead of going back to the pound. He went to a foster home today. A rescue took him out of there, so he went down to the pound to be picked up by these people, and a big thank you to them, because really he needs an awful lot of TLC. I mean, mange is just, if you could have seen the pictures of him when he first came in, his skin was just on fire, and he could not have been comfortable. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with mange, but it's, the skin is just raw and scabby and itchy and uncomfortable. If you've ever had poison ivy, think of it like that. If you ever had eczema or a rash, think of like that magnified just all over your body. And this dog was just raw. So he's had a week's worth of treatment or so, and now he'll go into a nice, loving environment instead of, concrete kennel. they do the best they can, but it's definitely not the same as being home. And, thanks to everybody who pulled together to make that happen. New Britain was one of the towns that was in serious imminent danger as well. And reports are that they got 4 dogs out today. So let's keep that going. I guess the adoption hours were canceled last week. So the police chief, bless his heart, and thank you very much, literally gave them a stay of execution this week. There were, the order came down to be no dogs killed, and the adoption hours today proved fruitful because 4 is a good number. I really don't know what New Britain's capacity is, but 4 is a good start, and hopefully it will pick up and continue, and the New Britain pound won't be in such danger as they have been. Now, I mentioned last week that there was a dog with a double eye infection that wasn't getting treated, and I urged you to contact the mayor. This week, there was a dog who reportedly had a urinary infection and was not being treated. So 2 dogs in the same pound, no medical treatment. There was a call for action on Facebook, and you know how I love Facebook, to contact the mayor again. And I did. I emailed him a letter, and of course, I got a canned response in return. But I also, remember, I write a column online, and I turned my letter into a column. Open letter to the mayor of New Britain. Please give the dogs medical treatment, and that circulated far and wide on Facebook, and I have the feeling it might have gotten directly, if not, the column was just basically my letter and his contact information, but I have the feeling word got back, and I hope so, because a little polite pressure over here and there never hurt. But I urge anybody who is outraged by that, as they should be, to contact the mayor. From what I understand, he is going to be looking into it, but very politely, very intelligently, please do contact him, because these dogs, if they have a condition that's uncomfortable or painful or anything like that, they should be treated. They shouldn't have to suffer. It's bad enough that the outcome for them could be death. Do they have to suffer until they die? Is like, seriously, as I even said this in the letter, is the lethal injection their only relief from the injustices handed to them in this world, and continue to be handed to them? And I say be polite because, everybody can yell and scream, but when you yell and scream and you start out nasty, all too often people just shut you down. If you are clear and concise and intelligent and calm, it gains the attention of the person who you're trying to reach a lot better and a lot more effectively than to go in, guns blazing, so to speak. But I did write that column, and it's out there on Facebook. It's on the Pound Posse Presents page. If you want to check it out, you want to read it, you want a little guideline of what you could say, by all means, go on Facebook, Pound Posse Presents, and check it out. The New Haven Animal Shelter is also full, and I don't have any reports as to how they did with their adoptions today. I looked around, I didn't see anybody out there that I could ask, but New Haven is full, and they tried awfully hard to get their dogs out there. There's been some sitting around for a long time, so if you're in the New Haven area, by all means check them out. East Hartford is another pound that has an awful lot of dogs sitting around, and they need a little boost in adoptions as well. So if you're around East Hartford, you want to give them a hand. Stamford is full. Newington has a lot of dogs that have been sitting around there for a long time too. They need a little bit of exposure. They absolutely need some adoptions. Like I said, anywhere you are, guarantee if there's a pound near you, and there is, it's full and it's in dire need of adoptions. Hartford has urgents in a different way than the other shelters do. Most of the shelters in the state, the dogs come in on their stray hold and then they're available for adoption up until the point where they fill up and they end up killing the dogs for space. Hartford has a 10-day stray hold, and if that dog is not spoken for, absolutely positively spoken for on that 10th day, that dog is killed. And that's just the town ordinance, and it's not about what they prefer or that they want to kill dogs, because Lord knows Sherry is amazing and she does her best every single day of the week. But if anybody wants to find out the contact information, the links to these pet finder pages for these dogs, I did put that all together in an article as well, and that's on the Pound Posse Presents page. You can contact me by email, pawprints713@aol.com, and I can send information to you if you're interested on how to contact these places. But by all means, you can just Google your local animal control and come up with the pet finder listing, the website if they have one. It's all in there in this article too. Like I said, if you want to check that out, by all means. And folks, in spite of no matter how many adoptions there are, I keep saying I've been saying it all summer, this is the worst time of year, and a lot of these places have stayed afloat because they've had support, but right now we're in a really critical time because in spite of the adoptions, we're not out of the woods. Sooner or later, things tank, and unfortunately, it just feels like we're there. Last year, the end of August, beginning of September, Waterbury lost 20 dogs. And that's an astounding number. And I will tell you that because of everyone's support, they have not killed for space since then. But that 20 was staggering. It was heartbreaking. And the black dog in the kennel behind me, that Barney was one of those 20. And he will haunt me for the rest of my days. And he is one of the reasons why I, totally redoubled all of my efforts. And I know that a lot of people were just as devastated to lose Barney last year. He's an older pit. He had some issues. He had some health issues. I personally, as much as I championed for him, he was not the one that was going to fit in my situation. And for all of our trying, poor Barney didn't make it out. And unfortunately, sometimes no matter how hard you try, it happens. And Hartford has also had an amazing run. I always use them as a model for all the support that they get. Hartford hasn't had to kill a dog simply for not being able to find it a home in probably a year and a half. And that's an amazing record, and that speaks volumes for the support that Sherry seems to encourage. Everybody just rallies around, and Hartford just hasn't lost any. And I have sadly to report that they did this week. They lost one. And if that's any indication of what the climate is, it's scary. Because again, the 20 last year and just that one in Hartford, it speaks volumes. So in memory of Outrigger, who was this dog's name, once again we're reminded that we really, really can't ever let our guard down. Poor Outrigger was, a youngster. He was a happy boy. He had a beautiful smile. I used his picture as a tribute in this article that I did about all the pounds and the emergency that exists in the state right now. And again, if you check that out, he was just gorgeous, and it was a devastating blow to everybody in rescue, not just the people in Hartford who have been there and met him and loved him and played with him. That's something that you really have to take into consideration. These dogs, they're under somebody's care, and there are those that don't care, but Hartford is not one of those places where nobody cares. I mean, that dog was played with and loved, and to have to know that nobody would take him, to know that nobody wanted him, that's heartbreaking. But on the same, it's going to seem like I'm contradicting myself, but as much as I encourage everybody to get involved, to adopt, to foster, to help these dogs, please do it smart, be responsible, and I use that word over and over again. Don't take a dog into your home that isn't the right fit. You're going to set yourself and the dog up to fail. Don't take more dog than you can handle, because it's going to backfire on you. There's just, there are some limits. You get caught up in wanting to save a dog, and by all means, I encourage that. But you really, if you're going to take a dog that, has a behavioral issue that you can't handle, if you're going to try to force the introductions into your home, if you're not prepared for some of the worst case scenarios of things going wrong. The dogs aren't like a pair of shoes or a handbag with a return policy. If you bring them back to the shelter, they're likely going to be moved to the top of the list. It's really up to you to make sure that you take the dog home that's going to fit within your situation. You can't go with, sometimes, well, this one is cute, or I like this one better, or, sometimes, yes, you have the one that's more urgent, but if you take another dog, it still clears up the space. So just save them, but do it right, do it responsible. I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs, because that's what I always say. And we're about to wrap it up, so I'm going to say good night. Good job saving these dogs, everybody. Please keep it rolling. Don't let them die. We can't afford the heartbreak. And they're all waving at me, so I'm going to say good night.